dat je luistert naar een nieuwe aflevering van Paul de Vries vanuit de podcaststudio in Ede met de missie de online automotive beter te maken. Dit doet Paul met de volgende partners met dezelfde missie. Marktplaats, Calldrip, Carmen Automotive BDC, Used Car Controller, Vinnacles en tweedehands.be.
Hey, welkom allemaal bij een nieuwe aflevering van onze podcast met de missie de online automotive beter maken. En vandaag gaan we dat doen met een Amerikaanse gast, Forest Ward van Calldrip. Is een partner met wie ik al heel veel jaren op de trek om samen natuurlijk de online automotive beter te maken met ons partnership. En Forest is een aantal jaren geleden was een keer bij ons geweest bij de DCDW. Maar voor de rest is het eigenlijk nog niet heel erg bekend in de Nederlandse markt. Dus daarom gaan we deze podcast gebruiken om Forest goed aan jullie voor te stellen. En laten zien wat we nog meer in petto hebben met onze partnership met Calldrip. Forest, thank God you are finally here in our podcast.
It's taken a while, but thank you for the invite.
It's taken 350 episodes or what, but that's something we have to adjust, right?
Right. Yeah. No, appreciate it and happy to be on with you.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to explain why it took so long to have you in the podcast, because having a podcast, but trying to making online automotive better, you don't want to promote your own stuff first. Maybe we didn't have to wait 350 episodes for that one, but that's the reason behind it, that I'm giving some other companies way more promotion in the podcast than our own stuff. So that's why we are here now today.
Well, excellent. We're happy to finally have made the list.
Yeah. So Forrest, for sure, can you explain our audience who is Forrest, where do you live, what do you like, what are your hobbies, and how did you become involved in the system and in the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit of my background. I live in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's for those that don't know where that's located. It's about a 5 to 6 hour drive north of Las Vegas, which I know everyone knows where Las Vegas is. So yeah. So just a few hours north, spend a lot of time in southern Utah, closer to Las Vegas as well. Some of my hobbies before we, get into what brought me to Calldrip. I am a huge advocate of off-roading. We have some beautiful places here in Utah to, do jeeping and hiking and anything outdoors. The last several years, I've
hiking, Forest, hiking.
The hiking.
You said hiking. Yeah.
I drive past the hiking trails.
Yeah. Okay.
There would be a nice place to hike, but yes, I don't personally do a lot of hiking. Probably my biggest hobby as of the last few years has been riding Harley Davidsons. I spend quite a bit of time. We have beautiful mountain roads and just a lot of nice terrain to ride close to home. So that's kind of a little bit about what I enjoy doing. With my work background, I started selling cars in 1996. So that's been a few years now. I grew up on a farm in southern Idaho, 3,500 acres, so quite a large farm. So very different, making a shift from, that farming background to automotive. Had some relatives that were in the space and said, look, it's less stressful. You show up and they even buy your pin for you. You don't have millions of dollars worth of equipment and, all the weather to deal with that you deal with as a farmer. So I made that transition in 96. And it was right before all of the online stuff really started, right? I mean, we were right at the beginning of that. And being a younger person in the industry, I had a computer. I had the AOL dial-up. I had all the stuff where I could get up. And the owner of the dealership was wanting a website. We didn't even have a website yet, but we had people like Cars.com and Auto Trader coming into the dealership to sell us, their third-party leads. And so, I kind of was involved in helping them get a website up and going. Had some contacts that were technical people back then. And so I started doing internet sales. Then I was promoted. After doing that for a few years, I was promoted and I did finance and insurance, F&I, we call it here. Guessing it's the same. Did that for about 8 years, then was promoted to a GSM and a GM of a dealership here. Worked for stores doing anywhere from 350 units a month. It was the biggest store I worked at. The average store was about 100 to 150 units, kind of small rural stores that I was involved in. Part of that training and kind of how I got involved in Calldrip was years ago, we weren't recording phone calls here in the States. And so we hired a company called Who's Calling back then and got tracking numbers and started listening to calls. And the first day I listened to calls, this is no exaggeration, I physically went home ill. I was so sick to my stomach about how bad the call quality was. And I asked myself, how do we even sell cars? These car conversations are so bad. And that was kind of my introduction. Years later, came across the company, the parent company is called Colink. And they were in that recording space and doing some unique things. And so it caught my interest. That's how I kind of got involved in Calldrip and transitioned from that retail facing side to more of, I guess, the vendor position or a consultant dealers that weren't recording and listening to phone calls. And then inside of the Calldrip platform, obviously over the last, I've been with the company full time since 2013. So almost 11 full years now. And a lot of things have evolved inside of the platform when it comes to call quality and communication with your, clients and how to train and get people better on the phone so you don't miss those opportunities. So that's basically where I'm at today.
So in hindsight, which kind of problem does Calldrip solve? Is that the quality of the conversation or something else?
Well, I would say what we're known for most is, I would call it a niche, where our niche is to help people get on the phone quicker with internet leads, right? So that was really what drew me to this. We had a problem at the dealership. I was the GSM and GM, where we would get an email notification of a new lead. We would be busy desking deals, doing different things. And I would still do F&I even. I would go in and do paperwork. So that notification would come to me. And then there was 3 managers. Sometimes there was only 2 of us on duty. Sometimes it was just me alone. And I would get the notification, but maybe I'm tied up for a half hour, an hour before I can distribute that lead out or assign it to somebody so they can make the phone calls.
Yes.
And that's really the niche that we feel is that immediate response to leads. And we know that trying to respond to people quickly, you just have a higher likelihood of getting them on the phone. So that's one of the problems that we can solve. But yes, the big thing and the thing I'm more passionate about, and I think it's your passion as well, is how do we make people better? It's great to have a tool that helps you get on the phone quick, but if we're helping people get on the phone quick to just be bad on the phone faster, then we're really not helping them. And so one thing we've really focused on over the last decade is how do we make this product better for the end user so the salespeople get better on the phone when they do make that quick connection. And so, we've really made a lot of changes around our scoring and coaching platform over the last 5 or 6 years to help accommodate that for trainers such as yourself or, other coaches and trainers we work with in the States, other countries. So they have a platform that they can go in and build their training around for salespeople and managers.
Yeah, so if you are stepping in an elevator with a Dutch dealer, what is then your elevator pitch? Is that still the rapid response, or is that also the scoring and the coaching ability? What are you going to mention first?
Yeah, in an elevator pitch, explaining what Calldrip does, I think it still focuses around the speed of response to internet leads.
Mhm.
The reason I think that's still my elevator pitch is we don't have a lot of people in that space that have the years of experience and the ability to do what we do. People have tried, we've had it, and we still have competition, obviously, people that do it. But some of the unique things we've built over the years is really our parsing and routing abilities to do very unique things. Some of the
What does that mean?
Yeah. So for example, take my scenario as a manager at a dealership. I'm assigning that lead to one person. Let's say I hand the lead to you, Paul, but you have a phone call, or your wife is going to come by and bring you a coffee or lunch or whatever, and you're expecting her in a minute. So you're like, okay, I'm going to get to this in a few minutes.
Yes.
Forrest just assigned this lead to me, but maybe I'm tied up for 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe forget for an hour or two. And so, the thing that our parsing does is send it to teams or groups of people. We can follow a round robin scenario, so we can push it to somebody. But if they don't make that phone call in the first minute or 2 minutes or however you want to set it up at your own location, you can escalate it to more people, which is very unique. Most CRMs in the States will do that, but it's a 15-minute timer. So lead gets assigned, 15 minutes, then they say, okay, it's still untouched. Now let's push this to
somebody
the next.
else. Yeah.
Exactly. So we can do all of that routing within the first few seconds. We can create a phone call. You're unavailable. You don't take it. Within 15, 20 seconds, we can push it to somebody else or a group of people where, it's more of a jump ball scenario. And I think that's been very popular. That ability to do that kind of distinguishes us from a lot of other people that have tried doing something similar.
Yeah, because we have that competition as well in Europe, but that's almost always a company which can ring the phone once. If they don't pick up the phone, that's it.
Yeah.
And the whole parsing and the distribution by the lead is something we are very known for, but actually we don't shout it from the rooftops.
Sure.
That's maybe a shame.
Yeah, it is, because I think we take it for granted a little bit that we have some of those abilities that haven't really been thought through or used in a CRM scenario. It's more of like a timed 15 minutes is what you do or something. But yeah, within the first minute, we can try up to 10 attempts. And that's very unique to what we do, to make sure, and part of my message has always been, and because I've seen it thousands of times, right? You have a customer walk on your lot and they're out there browsing inventory. How long does it take, or when do you want a salesperson to engage them? On an open floor, you see people fighting over trying to race to that car before it even stops, right? Because I want an opportunity to sell a car. The same if an inbound phone call happens, sales call line one, everyone's diving to push line one first, right? So what we're trying to do is level that playing field where it's the same customer that would drive in or pick up the phone and call. They've just elected to fill out a form. But we should have that same urgency. And our tool really allows for that same type of engagement where you can get a conversation started in 1 minute versus 15, 20 minutes from now. I may not be looking anymore. I've filled out a couple forms. I take kids to a soccer game, or I'm doing something else and I'm not in a position to answer that call. And so I think that being able to do that routing is something very unique, and we don't talk about it that much, but we just have done it for a long time that way, and it works very well for our customers.
Yeah, and for sure we know from all the statistics, also in the Netherlands and Belgium, if you don't pick up the phone, if you're not calling the customer within 5 minutes, then the opportunity will decline under the 40% range if you're calling after 15 minutes. And then everybody can say that 15 minutes is still fast, but in comparison with 1 minute is just 40 times slower.
Exactly.
It is what it is. So the faster you will and get that conversation, then the better you are. On the other hand, what's 100% true, a bad conversation in 1 minute is still a bad conversation, and that's why you need a scoring tool and you need a coaching tool. So, what did you develop the last 12 months on that scoring and coaching tool?
Yeah, so a few things that we've changed since the introduction of AI, obviously, which has been a few years in the making. But one thing we started to push pretty hard about a year ago at NADA when we were in Dallas was our ability to communicate either via text conversation, or the one thing that we were still developing was being able to have AI go through and listen to the calls, pick out keywords, score the call. And so that's been our main focus the last year with the AI, is that scorecard. How can we, train the AI inside of the tool to do what a human would do, but do it better and more consistently. And that's what we found. Before, with our scorecards, we've had the scorecards for years, but we relied on somebody, maybe sometimes in a foreign country or whatever, to listen to that call, do the translation, and give their personal opinion of the call, where they're manually guessing maybe on a KPI or key performance indicator. Did this meet the qualifications, yes or no? When it's left to a human, I think it's not quite as accurate, even though, and it takes longer as well, right? Like you have a queue built up of calls that you need to listen to and go through and score. And the thing that we've really developed and done a phenomenal job with over the last year is training those the AI to listen to that call and know what to listen for. And the speed of return on those calls is within a minute or so, where we've been able to implement some additional things that are getting ready to get released, like a save a deal or a second chance within a minute of that call wrapping up.
So the one thing which struck my mind when the first time I saw it in real life was actually not the scoring by the AI, and it's very awesome, it's very speed, it is very consistent, and we don't need to have somebody else listen to the call. That's all great. But the one thing what struck my mind as a manager, as an owner of a dealership as well, is that I'm getting a summary of the call. So I don't have to listen to the call, but I'm getting the summary of the call. And from that summary, I'm getting exciting or mad, with one way or the other. And then my follow-up question will always be from the summary. And the cool thing is that you can also give the lead management system or the CRM the summary, which is not a perception of the salesperson what happened in the call, but actually what happened in the call.
Yeah, that's a great point. And again, that's one thing, because we've done that summary now for a year and a half, on the beta testing and everything else. It's something I overlook and don't really talk about or think about because I'm not at a dealership and managing. I'm more making sure that the technology is doing what it should. Yeah. But getting a quick summary of that call and having, the scorecard right there within minutes, whether you need to listen to it or not, or what is that call about in general? Was it for sales? Was it for service? Yeah.
So from my perspective, I'm not looking that much to the scorecard, because it will tell the story about 100 leads, but the summary will tell the story about that conversation. And when you look into the summary, it's always almost 100% top on. It's always right. It is about about that conversation. So that will make me very happy. And from that one, you can make and save the deal tag as well. But how does that work? Save a deal tag.
Yeah. So the way that we've laid this out and built the save a deal concept is to look at that summary as well as the rest of the call. And maybe for me, because I'm in the data all the time, like you are, right? I'm in the data of those phone calls and I'm looking what drives appointments and what doesn't. If I say a combination of these two things, do my appointments go up or do they go down? Maybe it's three things, right? Maybe I have KPIs so that it takes the whole summary, converts everything, and the sky's the limit on the way you can train the save a deal. So if somebody doesn't mention a trade-in or somebody doesn't actually ask for the appointment, instead of just getting a notification on one KPI, this happened or didn't happen, what we're doing with the AI is training it to say, what gives me my best chance of setting an appointment? What we see in the States typically are kind of those two categories are a lot of times the difference between a dealer setting at 35% appointment set on the phone and even up to 70. Do they mention a trade? Do they say they're a certified dealer for that type of trade? Do they express excitement in the trade? And, so that, and then asking for the appointment. When I see those two KPIs checked, appointments can be as high as 60, 70%. So in the save a deal, if you think about you as a dealer wanting to build this out, those might be the two KPIs that I would do and say, if these two aren't checked, they are checked as false, it didn't happen on the phone, then we need to relook at this situation because those are the appointments that usually make the difference is around that trade-in and actually asking. So if I build that out and I get a notification that there's a potential opportunity that these two or these three KPIs got missed on, you should relook at this. Here's the summary of that. And, go revisit this phone call as a manager, make a call back out to them because your salesperson totally missed the boat on bringing any of these things up. So we're really excited about, how the testing has gone on this and how, how accurate it is.
So when it becomes live, is it available?
Yes. Yeah. It should go live within, I think it's on beta right now. It should go live within a week. And then it's available. Obviously, we would have to train people on how to set it up, but there's a lot of managers that would be looking for different ways to set it up than maybe I am, right? They might have other things. So it will be available and ready to go probably as early as next week.
So one of the big difference between Europe and the US is that in the US you have way many spam callers than we have in the Netherlands. So actually you see that in behavior of the consumer, that the consumer here will pick up an unknown number, a visible number, but an unknown number more easily than in the US, for example. That's why we have more success with the rapid response tool as a calling software tool than the US dealerships with the CallDrip system. On the other hand, you are using, because you have that problem, SMS follow-up within the system. Can you tell us more about that follow-up tool within the system?
Yeah, absolutely. So you hit the nail on the head, and there's all kinds of laws implemented here around phone calls and texting and, being compliant. But one thing we notice, to your point, if they don't recognize the number, less likely to answer. We do see it's about 10, 12% higher in Europe and the UK answer rates than they are here in the States across, thousands of phone calls. That's about what it runs. So we still have pretty good answer rates, and we have ways to work around that with certifying each number so it's registered to the dealer so it doesn't show up as unavailable. So we do put those in place. But the thing that we found, and this has been several years ago now, probably 2 or 3 years ago, we implemented a text to go out as well to notify the consumer that their phones are going to ring, typically from that same phone number. So
the text is an SMS, right?
SMS, yeah. So working on WhatsApp, we've had some roadblocks along the way with WhatsApp for you guys in Europe and other countries. But yes, SMS goes out. So the consumer fills out a form on, let's just say, cars.com or the dealer's website. Doesn't matter. The text will go out immediately within seconds saying, hey, we just received your request for more information, however that's worded, from cars.com or your website. We're going to be reaching out to you in just a moment from this phone number. So the consumers are more likely to answer. So we've had really good success with that dual combination going out in the first minute. And, if you think about what you would train a salesperson to do, a salesperson's very, they're going to make the phone call in the time that they feel is adequate. But all those touch points of communication, receiving a text and a phone call within the first minute, we're trying to help our customers engage and get on the phone as quickly as possible. I feel like it's really helped our answer rates here in the States with that. And then to your point about the follow-up after that conversation, let's say they don't answer the phone call. We can send another text after the call, basically saying, we just tried to reach out to you. We just hit your voicemail. If you have additional questions, it's now time to talk. And we're seeing a lot of engagement with those text messages if they didn't answer the phone. Nights and weekends are a great time that we see those rates spike with engagement with texting as well.
So, but the big advantage is that the text is going out automatically through the AI. It will respond in reaction on the consumer answer as well through the AI. So the dealer doesn't have to reach out to all those consumers which are not reachable. The AI is doing the heavy lifting. And if somebody is replying, then you can turn off the AI and you can do it by yourself with an engaged shopper.
Yeah, absolutely. So the inbox is fairly new for us. I would say 3 or 4 years for what you're talking about. And then building it around the AI where we can go in. I've got templates set up for different things. So there's ways to create or train the prompts around AI on how you want it to respond, how aggressively, how often. So we've built all of that into the platform to engage with these consumers. We want it to feel as real as possible without thinking you're talking to a chatbot. So that all comes down to the training. And we've done an excellent job inside of the tool of being able to train those virtual assistants, we call them. And in fact, we run some programs with some OEMs here in the States where we're just engaging. If there was no phone call placed in a certain amount of time, we're engaging them with the virtual assistant. And appointment sets, believe it or not, are over 20% where they're communicating with AI after hours, nights, weekends, when there's no salespeople available. And yeah, I mean, you can make it as human as possible. You can even train it. One thing that we've experimented with is training the AI to almost follow a script, just like you would a phone script. And so it doesn't veer off and get too far in the weeds. But to your point, if the consumer does ask a question, well, here's what I am driving. What's it worth? Trade worth? The AI is never going to answer. It's always going to respond to the consumer. I'm happy to get a manager involved. And when that happens, then it alerts the management team that there's a conversation going on with the AI that they need to get in the middle of and answer questions. And I've looked, in fact, NADA this year, I went around to all the different AI booths looking to see if anyone was doing anything similar. I don't see anything. It's very unique to what we do, where you can hand off between AI and human and then back to AI if you want to. Let's say the consumer is very active and engaged in that text conversation today, but then, the AI responds and there's no response for a 24-hour period or 8-hour period. then we try to prompt them, just like a salesman should try to follow up with a text the next morning or whatever. So we have that built in to try to keep the customer engaged in that conversation.
So the one thing I talked with Brock, our CTO, at the NADA about the AI with the texting is, as we all know, in Europe, except of the UK, which is not Europe technically anymore, texting is not that big. It's something for an appointment set with the dentist or whatever, but nobody else is texting actually. It's all WhatsApp, and we all know that WhatsApp has a different set of rules of engagement. It's very tough and hard to get in and to play with their rules. But on the other hand, email is not that yet. So I talked to Brock if we can do the texting, but then forget the texting, but do it by email. Because if we can use the same power, then it will be a lethal thing to have a lead follow-up system with the CallDrip system, with the rapid response tool, with the coaching tool, with the scoring tool, and also with an automatically email follow-up tool.
Yeah, it's great. It's something we've looked at for years. We haven't answer rates historically with email is, in the single digit. Single digit. It's not great. And so we've never been on that as a company because of that. We've always thought, the highest engagement and the highest conversion to appointment is on a phone call. But if you can get even somewhere close with other communication points, whether that's a text, WhatsApp, email, they're all on our radar. So I'm glad you were able to speak with him about that, because the interaction in different countries isn't exactly the same as what we see every day here in the States.
No, but on the other hand, if the engagement on email is 1% and we can outperform it to 10%, which is still miserable, it is 10 times more.
Sure.
So it is 10 times more successful because it's all in the messaging. If a consumer reach out to a dealer through one of the portals, there are in 50% of more cases, they only provide an email address, no phone number, no mobile number. So you only have the email.
Yeah.
And we all know that the salesperson will quit after one response. So if the AI picks up, then we have a lethal weapon.
Yeah. It's definitely something that I'm sure Brock brought up the ladder to our technical team. So hopefully we can pursue that. I definitely see a benefit and an advantage to being able to do that. We see the same thing, and we work outside of automotive a lot in the States as well. So we have clients that maybe own franchises and different things, and a lot of their leads won't have phone numbers as well. So it would be definitely makes sense to add that into the platform.
Sure. So the last question, Forest. In 2025, do you see another great breakthrough than AI was, or are we going to work with AI for the coming years, you think?
I think it's the application of the AI will change. I think it will continue to get better. When even the models of the AI that have changed between the NADA show of 23 in Dallas to what we have today, access to the tools is definitely better. There's some people trying to actually do the voice portion of that, which I don't think has been very successful. So I would say
on the follow-up, no. On the inbound, yes, but on the outbound, no.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything, and I'm constantly studying the latest greatest technologies coming out. I haven't seen anything that would play into our space outside of AI and really dialing in a good way to apply the AI. And I think the direction that we've been going is the right direction for us as a company. I think that there will be some things that will continue to get better over the next year with that interaction with the consumer and the dealership. but haven't seen anything else that I've gotten really excited about personally in that space.
No, I can imagine. So first, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your partnership for the last years. So we are running strong together for at least 5 years, I think.
I think we're close to 7 years, but yeah.
Yeah, and hope it to continue for many years to come. Thank you. Volgende week of volgende keer hebben we natuurlijk weer een nieuwe aflevering van de podcast over 4 weken. Met daarin een nieuwe gast met dezelfde missie. Samen de online automotive beter maken. Dank voor het luisteren en tot de volgende keer. Dank je wel.
Dank u wel voor het luisteren naar de DCDW-podcast van Paul de Vries met de missie om de online automotive beter te maken. Vond u deze podcast interessant? Abonneer dan meteen via Spotify, Soundcloud of iTunes. En deel deze podcast via LinkedIn met uw netwerk. De DCDW-podcast van Paul de Vries wordt mede mogelijk gemaakt door de volgende partners: Marktplaats, Calldrip, Carmen Automotive BDC, Used Car Controller, Vinnacles en tweedehands.be.